everybody, I am Tiffany and today I am bringing you another book review. I am very excited to talk about this book. This was one I didn't think I was going to get to for a really long time, but Eddie and I kind of started our own little book club where we choose a book and then we read it at our own pace, so we don't have a set time of when to finish it, but we'll both read the same book and then whenever we're ready, we will talk to each other about it. And this was the first book that we chose actually to do this for. So kind of a book club, but a loose book club that doesn't have to be done by the end of each month, just whenever we finish it, we talk about it. So you may see some odd books thrown in here and there because I will be doing reviews on those books that I choose with Eddie as well. The book I am reviewing today is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. Now this book, when I saw it, I was so excited for it and I had no idea it was coming out until the month it was coming out. This came out in January 2021. I read it actually pretty close to its release. I know this video is going up way later past that, but I did read it actually way back in January/February when it initially came out. And when I saw this, the reason that I chose this book was one, it was Alexandra Bracken, and if you've been on this channel for a while, if you've watched my top 10 authors video, you will know that Alexandra Bracken is one of my top 10 favorite authors of all time as of right now. Two, look at this cover. It's so pretty. It's pretty. It's so pretty, and I wore an outfit to match it today. We match in colors. And the third is because it deals with Greek mythology. Now, I personally haven't read a book that's dealt with Greek mythology since the Percy Jackson series, and I'm not even caught up on those. I read the first series, I read Heroes of Olympus, didn't read the Trials of Apollo yet, which I know, a travesty, and I haven't even read Magnus Chase, which is about Norse mythology. And I know there are other really good books out there that deal with mythology, but I just haven't read a book since Percy Jackson that deals with Greek mythology and does its own take on it, and that made me really, really excited. The premise of this book got me so hyped for it, and I was so excited to be able to pick it up. And just as a side note, if you guys do have any suggestions of mythology books, not necessarily doesn't have to be Greek mythology, but fiction books that deal with mythology in some way, then totally let me know. I'm totally down to read those too. I have Edith Hamilton's book and read that when I was younger because I love mythology, so don't be afraid to suggest those type of books. Now, overall, my feelings of the book: was it fun? Yes. Was it perfect? No. Is it my favorite Alexandra Bracken book ever? No. That still belongs to the Darkest Minds series. Specifically, I don't know, it's a tie between the first and second book in that series. So Lore does not top those, but I did have a fun time with this book. There were some moments that I really loved in it, and there were moments that kind of got confusing for me and kind of lost me a bit, which I'm going to talk about in the spoilery section. But overall, it is a really fun ride, and I really do love the take that it has on Greek mythology because it's different. I haven't seen a story like this personally, and it was just fun to see somebody try to take on something unique. For those of you who want to know statistics, this book has a 3.91 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I think I rated it 4 stars on Goodreads. But I will say I think 3.91 is definitely more accurate. Overall, it still was really enjoyable. Just the parts that kind of took me out of it definitely, I think, reflecting that rating. For those of you who want a description of the book, this book follows a girl named Lore. Ooh, she's on the cover. Not really, that's not her. Lore belongs to part of this giant family that are all descendants of Greek heroes, and they all participate in something called the Aegon. I don't know if I pronounced that right, I'm so sorry. And the Aegon is something that happens every 7 years. So way back when, some of the Greek gods got in trouble, as you know, Greek gods love to do, and they ended up getting banished from Mount Olympus and had to live their life in the human world. The only thing is every 7 years they become mortal and are able to be killed. It's every 7 years for 7 days. During that time, the descendants of these Greek heroes hunt these gods and try to kill them. If one of these descendants ends up killing the god, then they become like the reincarnation of that god and get to be immortal until the next Aegon, and then they're hunted. So it's a cycle. And Lore is caught up in this cycle, of course. I don't want to tell you much more than that. You should go and read it in order to get the full story on it. But that's basically what it's about. That sounds pretty cool, right? It's Hunger Games with Greek gods. But overall, I did really really enjoy this book despite it having a little bit here and there that did confuse me and throw me off, but I really do suggest you go and grab this. It is a standalone, which is so rare. It's not a perfect book in my opinion, but I think a lot of people will really enjoy this. So I really suggest you go and read this, especially if you're a big fan of mythology. It's always fun to see people play with that and how they interpret it and what they want to do with these gods. That is all I can tell you without spoiling you, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into the spoilery section because there's so much that I want to talk about in this book. So thank you non-spoilery people for joining me. Go and read Lore by Alexandra Bracken and then come back and we can discuss all the feels and everything together, and you can say if you agree with me, if you completely disagree with me, whatever. Goodbye non-spoilery people, goodbye! I'm so excited to film this one because despite it having its flaws, there's still so much that I do want to talk about this book. So this makes me very excited when I got a lot to say about it. This book definitely had moments where it really captivated me and just moments where it did lose me. I think part of it was a little bit the structure. Once I got used to the structure, it was okay. But I was a little bit thrown at the beginning of the book even because we're kind of just thrown into this girl Lore's world. She's in this fighting boxing kind of ish match, and then all of a sudden Castor comes in and we don't know who Castor is really, and you just know there's a relationship there but you're not really sure what's going on there. There's just a lot happening in that first section that you don't really know much about, and just the way it was structured, I kind of wish you had one of those flashback scenes to start with just for us to get a little bit more of a perspective on their relationship before all of a sudden we're introduced to Castor. I don't really know if maybe even that would have worked, but I kind of thought maybe if you put the scene where they first become partners in training, that one was a really nice scene. I think maybe that would have been nice beforehand, or maybe something preluding to what happened to Castor. Maybe part of the last interaction he had with Apollo, starting at the beginning and then going into that. I just felt like I needed something there to bridge that gap, because I did feel confused because the beginning of the book for me didn't feel like a first book. I know it's a standalone, but it felt like the beginning of a second book where we've already had this big backstory about these people, and then we're starting the second book now and they're in a different place in their lives. And it just threw me. This is the first time that we're getting introduced to Lore as a character, and I get we need to introduce some relationships fast because it's a standalone, but it just felt kind of clunky. I really enjoyed Lore's character overall. Her and Athena, they were top-notch characters. I loved them. Athena, I think I loved more than Lore. Even though Lore was super strong and super awesome, just Athena was amazing. Even though what she does is horrible, I still love Athena. Even though I probably should have been more suspicious of Athena, I found myself wanting Lore to just stay aligned with Athena because I just loved Athena so much. I didn't want them to get in a fight and break up, but just no, Athena stayed good and Lore stayed good with her. But Lore was definitely a very strong main character, and I loved that. That scene with Belen where she like cuts off his thumbs and really brutally hurts him, that was so intense. I loved that part. And then Castor came in and his approach was understandable of wanting to interrogate this dude, but he also leads them into the situation that causes the explosion and almost gets them killed. It's 50-50. I loved that you had that contrast where you see her not really confident in herself, but you can tell she is kick butt. You don't mess with Lore. Lore is strong. And Athena again was my absolute favorite character. Her twist at the end was so good. I loved it so much. The only thing is the characters, besides Athena and Lore, there weren't really any other main characters I was attached to. I didn't really have time to get attached to them. You have Iroh, that is Lore's best friend, but you don't get to know her enough. Even Castor. Castor, I guess I grew to care for a little bit, but not enough for me to be really concerned, especially when he died. So that was the thing. There was a lot of really good characters. All of them had such interesting personalities, but you didn't see them enough for me to really feel concerned about them. And part of that too was the last battle. I didn't really get to have a chance to feel concerned about them, but just in general, there wasn't enough development of those characters for me to really care about them like I did for Lore and Athena. And Aristus, the guy who's Ares now, he was super super well rounded out too. The villains were great in this book, and it's nice when you have a really strong villain. You had two strong villains that were very scary, and I loved that. So it was clear that the focus was really on Lore, which it should be because it's the main character, and Athena. Those were the characters that felt the most well developed throughout the entire book. But man, let me tell you, Alexandra Bracken, one of the main reasons I do love her books is the twists she comes up with, and I will say this book did not disappoint with the twists. First, right off the bat, you get introduced to Castor kind of weirdly, but then you find out he's the new Apollo. Maybe I'm more gullible, it's okay, I don't care. But for me, I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be interesting since Lore is trying to get out of this and her best friend Castor is now going to be hunted. So that was interesting. Then you had the twist with Hermes. That was like, oh, that made me gasp. I was sitting there going, wait, what? Hermes took care of her this whole time. And then I felt kind of dumb because then the necklace should have given me an indication that that was Hermes the whole time, but I just didn't click. I clicked when Lore clicked, all right? I felt it with Lore. I felt her pain and I just went, oh, no. And then you have the final two twists, which are just, my everything. That twist with Athena, with her killing Lore's parents. That was amazing. That I had no inclination whatsoever that that was coming. I didn't even see a hint of that. And it just made sense when you looked back because she was trying to get Lore isolated. I remember there was a brief moment, I think it's when Lore gets in the final argument with Castor after Artemis dies. I think that was the only time that my brain put a little warning bell in my head because of the fact that she was only with Athena now. And there was no one else really that she was interacting with. So that put a little warning flag up. But I didn't really pay attention to it because I just love Athena. See the conundrum here? You made me love Athena so much that I didn't care what she really did. I was just saying, no, Athena cannot do any wrong because she's my favorite character in this. So when Athena betrayed, and she hurt Lore. She broke her. Like, literally. Lore barely survived that. She survived that because of a feverish dream with Hermes that helped lead her to Castor who could heal her, basically. But oh my goodness, that was intense. And I loved it. I love twists like that just make you go, oh, and completely shocked, and it does a 180 on the whole situation. And then the last twist that you have, which again I thought was really good, though I will go and say that I don't think it was fully utilized the way I wanted it to be, was Lore taking Athena's power. That was great because the big thing with Lore, she wanted to get out of the Aegon. And she does in the end. But there is that symbolic moment of the fact that she's not going to be able to escape. The only way she can survive is for Athena to give herself up and kill herself for Lore. And that's what Athena does. And having Lore inherit that power and knowing as a reader that she doesn't want that power, that was a really strong moment, a really defining moment in her character. At least for that brief moment, she's gonna have to deal with the fact that she is now immortal and she can't escape it. Yes, she will be with Castor, but she can't escape the Aegon. It's always gonna hold her. And now she is Athena. But I do wish that they did utilize that whole bit just a bit more. I felt like it fell flat a little bit at the end despite it being rounded out. The other character I want to say though that I really like before I get into a little bit what bugged me is Artemis. Artemis was super powerful too, and I wish we could have had more time with her, but the scenes she was in were so great. Trying to figure out what was going on with her and Athena and just her being Artemis. She was awesome. I'm realizing I really liked the crazy characters in this book, but I felt like Artemis was really strong for the time that she had in the book. Now let's get into a little bit more of something that really bugged me throughout. There were parts that did take me out of the book, but then those twists would reel me back in. But it sucks a little bit because I don't want to be taken out of the book ever. That's what makes the twist more powerful, is when you aren't taken out of that book. Sadly, the parts that did make me check out were the action sequences. Now, I don't know if any of you guys had trouble following some of them, but a lot of the big action sequences I did have trouble following and had to read through a couple of times, and I don't think still I fully understood some of them. The big fight with Artemis, while the interaction with Artemis was really fun, her death was kind of confusing because I couldn't visualize it, and that was the problem I was having. I couldn't visualize the setting correctly. Everything didn't feel laid out properly for me, so it was hard for me to picture exactly what was happening. I think the fight regarding Dionysus when he dies, I think that one confused me. Even the last fight I think confused me a bit. Just the action sequences didn't feel as well written. They felt rushed. It kind of sucked. It felt like we were rushing through and getting some action in order to get to this plot point point. And that's what sucks, because this book had, like I said, so many really good twists in it. And so to have the big bulk of it that's supposed to support those twists kind of be a jumble, it didn't help my reading experience, and it did take me out of the book a couple of times, which sucks because I love Alexandra Bracken. I didn't have this problem with her other books, so I don't know why it was different in this book. Maybe it was because it was a standalone, so you couldn't really drag as much out. Maybe, I don't know. But I did realize that I was having a lot of trouble with the action sequences in this book. The other thing that kind of bugged me before the ending is the character Castor a bit. Even though Castor, by the end, I came around to him, and I think part of it was because he was kind of against Athena, and I love Athena again, so you don't go against Athena. I didn't want him to die, but I thought that would have been a shocker if he actually stayed dead when he got shot, especially since Iroh shot him. But he just kind of annoyed me here and there, I guess. I think it was because every time that Lore had to be brutal in a way, he said, that isn't you, this isn't you. And I do think Lore has quite a violent side. Personally, he just seemed very much against that, which I get. We don't want Lore to be violent in real life like that, but part of the Aegon is you do kind of have to be that way in order to defend yourself. So I think I just got kind of annoyed a little bit with that. So it was hard to have the love interest kind of irk me, but I just feel like we didn't really get to see him use his power fully either at the end with the big battle that wasn't really a big battle in my opinion. I don't feel like we really truly got to see him just go all out. We saw a brief glimpse of it, but nothing major. Let's get to the ending. I really liked that back and forth when we're finding out exactly what happened to Lore's family in the present and seeing what Lore did in the past and why she thought that the new Ares god was the one that killed them. But the main battle at the end just didn't quite do it for me, which sucks because I was waiting for the giant epic battle, and I figured it wasn't going to be long because by the time I got to that point in the book, I saw how many pages I had left, and I thought there's no way it's going to be this giant long epic battle. It just felt a little bit anticlimactic. You didn't really see anybody in danger. You mainly see Lore and Castor fight, but you don't know what's going on with the outside world, and a big battle with the gods happens, but you don't really get to feel the danger of the friends, and you don't really get to see them fighting at all, and that kind of defeated the purpose to me. It just felt very anticlimactic. I did like the fight with the gods, especially since it was Lore against Athena and Ares, but this is where it comes back around to what I was saying before with how I feel like they didn't utilize the fact that Lore gets Athena's power. Lore gets Athena's power when Athena is dying, Ares is dead, and Athena's on her last dying breath, and she gives Lore her power in order for Lore to survive, and then Lore can stop the machine that's gonna kill everybody. Yeah, not my favorite ending. What I wanted to happen, which I thought would have been way cooler, and you can let me know what you think of this ending maybe. I still really liked the twist of Athena having to give her power to Lore in order for Lore to survive, but I thought it would be really cool if Athena ended up giving her power to Lore, but Ares was still alive. So she kind of had to battle Athena and Ares, and then Athena gives in, and then Lore gets Athena's power, and then she battles Ares, and it's this awesome epic fight. Bam, 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 bam. And then they stop the machine. That would have been great. I just wanted to see an epic battle where Lore doesn't get her butt kicked by these two gods and has to rely on a god sacrificing herself only. I wanted to see a moment of Lore fighting as Athena, not saving the humanity from a machine, but from the gods themselves. I was waiting for this fight this whole time, and it didn't happen, and I was like, you could have used her with Athena's power to fight Ares. That would have been so cool. I would have loved that. I don't know if you guys would have liked that, but I think it would have been really cool. If that's how it ended, that's my perfect ending in my head. I will say though, I was happy that all of it was wrapped up. I didn't really have any questions unanswered. I don't know how I feel about the main ending with them all of a sudden not becoming gods and not having to participate in the Aegon. And that makes sense because, you know, they are the only two gods left. But it just again felt kind of anticlimactic, and I think it's because we really didn't get that big battle. I do feel like if it really felt like an evenly matched, well-written action sequence, I think it would have made the ending itself better, because then they've already had this strong battle, and it makes sense of why they wouldn't have to continue the Aegon after that. But overall, I will say that despite this not being my absolute favorite book, I did still really enjoy it. I enjoyed the ride, and like I said before in the non-spoilery section, this was a unique premise and I always appreciate a unique premise. And there were twists that really did get me and I love, and they stuck with me. I just wish it had more of the layers underneath to truly back them up to make you just go bam. And I just overall wanted a stronger ending with the fight. That is really all I have to say about this book. If you stayed through the spoilery section and you haven't read the book, still go and give it a shot. You don't know if you're ever going to love a book or hate a book yourself just based off of someone else's opinion. So I always say go and read it or watch it for yourself and form your own opinion about it at the end of the day. Thank you so much for joining me. If you do have any other book, movie, or TV recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. I love getting your suggestions, so please don't stop recommending them. I love them. Thank you so much for joining me. Have an awesome day, evening, afternoon, whatever time of the day you're watching this, and don't forget to be awesome. Have a great day. Goodbye! Whoa!